Hello, 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 and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Jameelah, and I am a master manifester, and I'm sure you are too, because you are watching content like this. The name of this lovely channel is Holistic Manifesting, because I believe in a whole body, whole mind, and whole being experience when it comes to manifesting these amazing lives that we're choosing. What I'm discussing in this video today is, are you willing to pay the price? And when I say pay the price, I do not necessarily mean that we know specifically what that price will be. I was thinking about some of the most important accomplishments and things that I've created in my life and how I've had to navigate so many different surroundings and be so uncomfortable so many times. And a lot of it is what I think about is, a lot of times what I think about is how much I was willing to say, I need to do whatever it takes, right? Now, I didn't need to sacrifice my integrity, sacrifice my morals, sacrifice my values. But my thought process was, if I'm going to go for something or if I'm going to create this thing, I need to be willing to do whatever it takes. So that was like, if you're talking about working on a college degree, when I had two small children, one of the biggest things that was important to me was finishing. I didn't want to start and leave it lingering and have something sitting out there that I'm always thinking about in my head, like, oh my God, I should have finished. And because I did that so many times, like, in my earlier years. And so one of the things that I was willing to do was take my children to class with me. Like, I literally set them in class next to me with little headphones on. They would do their own homework. And I was blessed enough to have graceful professors who did not mind that. And I would always get compliments on how well behaved they were. It's like they knew how important it was to be a good kid and how important it was to sit there and not whine and not pout. Because these were 2.5 hour long classes, and they would sit there and just be the most well-behaved people. And we did that several times. And that was a cost I was willing to pay. And one time I had a class I didn't get out until like 10:30 at night. So I literally had to bring them home at like 11 o'clock and get them into bed and then get them up for school the next morning when they were doing school for early on in their early years. And it was exhausting just putting them through that and doing that process. And then eventually I came to a place in my life where I didn't have to do that anymore, but I was willing to pay that price. And so when we think about things that we want to achieve, say it's a fitness goal or something, whenever I'm doing something and I'm just about to go and like eat something that's not going to be a part of my fitness goals, I actively tell myself, you're not paying the price right now. Go ahead and have it. And I don't lie to myself and say, well, you didn't have this yesterday. You didn't have this last week. You didn't have this. I say, you know what? You're not paying the price right now. So just know that you're not paying the price. And can you accept that? That was something that's something I have to think about all the time. When it comes to getting out there on the track and walking or doing exercises at home or whatever it is, for that thing that you want, are you willing to pay that price? And sometimes you know that you're not. And many other things in life, when it comes to, say, writing a book or creating a project, that's something that's long-term that you're going to have to give a lot of time and energy to. Well, you may have to miss outings. You may have to miss hanging out with friends. You may have to distance yourself from people that may not be supportive about what you're working on at that particular time. You may have to go to bed late at night as opposed to your usual 10 p.m. or something like that. You may have to crawl in bed at 2 a.m., right? Especially if you're working on degrees and stuff, that paper might keep you up all night. Those are the costs that you're willing to pay. A lot of times people say that there's so many reasons and excuses that we use to get out of doing things that would be beneficial for us, when really the ultimate truth behind it is that we're not willing to pay a cost for it. Because we have all this time in a day, we have all these hours, we have all these moments, we have all these opportunities, and while we may be mentally tired sometimes, we still have the physical ability to take care of things or to do things that would lead us closer to where we're trying to be in life. And I think that the more radically honest that we are with ourselves about not wanting to pay a price or not paying a price or not feeling like paying a price, then we can actually get closer to attaining those goals. Because then we're not, telling ourselves that it's all of these outside factors that's stopping us from creating something that we want, that it's all of these outside factors that's getting in the way of us being able to have the life that we choose. Now, while outside factors may impact it, yes, one of the outside factors was, yes, this class is very late in the evening and it's not convenient for people like me who was also a single mom at, raising her kids by herself. So I could, blame it on the outside factors and say, this is not conducive to what I have going on in my life. Or I could say, this is the deal. And if I want to have it, this is what's going to go along with it right now. There's always an outside factor that's going to get in the way of us creating something or being able to easily create something in our lives. A lot of people like to think that because they see someone else easily get something or easily achieve something, or what we think is an easy win in their lives, that somehow that should apply to us. And I'm like, just because other people sliding under the radar and what we're seeing, we don't even really know. And just because other people aren't, getting in trouble for this or getting in trouble for that, it doesn't mean that it's not going to affect us the same, right? This happens a lot when it comes to things like, diseases or getting sick. A lot of people like to say, I was listening to this audio, it was Joe Dispenza, and he was talking about how this guy had this melanoma skin cancer, and he was kind of annoyed because he had spent most of his life surfing and being on the beach and getting a lot of sun exposure, and he had very little melanin to help protect his skin from this particular type of sarcoma, that's what it was, type of skin cancer that he had. And one of the biggest things that he couldn't let go of was the fact that he knew so many other people that didn't have to pay the same price that he was paying in order to enjoy their lives living in the sun. And so we have to come up off of that. Just know that there's always a price to be paid. And just because you don't see someone paying it, it doesn't mean that internally they're not shifting. It doesn't mean that they're not making these changes on the inside or creating a lifestyle or getting over something huge or big that we just don't have a clue about. Because a lot of times that's just the case. We just don't have access to it. We just don't know. So are you willing to pay the price? Are you willing to put yourself on the line and say, this is what I truly want. I'm willing to be disappointed. I'm willing to get it wrong. I'm willing to try over and over and over again. Because when we honestly know that we're not doing it, then we don't feel slighted by life. We know that, hey man, there's a cost to pay to do that, and I didn't pay the cost. And I'm not being slighted. It's just not something that's available to me and that I've made available to me. And a lot of times we get hopped up on too that some people have easier access to things that we truly want to experience in life. And instead of just saying, well, I have that it's going to take a little bit more effort for me to create this thing in my life, we spend a lot of time on how easy someone else has it to create this thing in their life, or whether it was just handed to them, or whether it, came through the generational lines. And the thing about generational anything is the fact that at some point somebody paid the price. So it's like if I have my daughters and one of them is able to, drive a luxury vehicle at 17 years old or something like that, and someone can look at her, one of her friends, and say, you were given this, and you don't have to work for this, and you don't have to do this. But somebody's paying the cost, right? My parents paid the cost. I'm paying the cost for this child to be able to scurry around town and go to college in this type of vehicle and, not have to worry about a car breaking down and not have to worry about looking for rides and all this kind of stuff. Somebody's paying it. And so in our lineage, it happens too, right? So we can't just walk around and act like everything that we see and everything that we put our eyes on is all that's available. It's all that's going to be, what this person has done to attain it, right? Because that's not the case. And even if you see people like when I was growing up, supermodels were a huge thing in the 90s. And people used to always go on and on and on about supermodels and how they have it so easy. And then we hear later in the 2000s how they were living in treacherous environments, how they had awful living conditions, how they had drugs thrown at them constantly, how many of them were a lot younger than what we actually thought they were. And so a lot of times now these women have book deals, they have opportunities to speak places, they can still model even in their 50s and 60s, and because they paid a cost. Now they didn't know they were going and paying a cost at 14 and 15 years old, but that is the outcome. It's like they paid the cost. They were in situations that they didn't know better. They were around people that were unscrupulous, and they fought through through and they got to the other side, those that survived, right? So now you can hear the stories of wisdom, stories of triumph from these women at this age. And so it would be foolish for us to sit and say, oh, well, they just got it handed to them because they look like this. No, sometimes that can be a negative thing to look a certain way. We think it's great from the outside looking in, but then people see it as an opportunity to sort of manipulate and abuse, and they want to keep it, hold them hostage. It's nonsense, right? So anyway, I want to do a quick video today about that. Are you willing to pay the cost to be the boss of your own life? And when you know you're not, that radical honesty can save you from feeling negative, and you can decide what are you really willing to pay the cost for, because it's not for everything, because everything comes with one. But are you willing to do what needs to be done to create this specific thing that you want to have in your life? Right? And then you do get to a point where you put in that work, and then you can sit back and allow. But what is it that you mind losing? Some people they don't have the courage to be disliked. Some people don't have the courage to, make missteps in life and see themselves as a person who made a mistake. Some people don't have the courage to distance themselves from certain families and friends because they're trying to create a different mindset around a particular area in their lives. And it's not about being ugly or rude, but it's just not available to them in that particular group or that particular social environment. So are you willing to do these things? Are you willing to say no to things that aren't working for you in your life? But even if it's going to disappoint other people, that's one of the big ones, right? Are you willing to pay the cost? Have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day.